to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater for a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. So we're bringing you guys another video here that revolves around some free agents, some guys who are potentially going to be released, and people who we know have been released. And we'll talk about a couple of them. There's a couple more probably we can get into later, but here are just three names that have been kind of circling around, some of them bigger than others. And, you know, it's just more drama for Colts fans to talk about, right? So let's talk about the first guy here, because the last two I think we can have more of an argument on. So the first one is Bouye. Now, anyone that knows Bouye was actually played in the division for many years, you know, for quite a while, and then was traded to Denver after this year. So for his 2020 season, he had 23 total tackles with no sacks, no fumbles, and no interceptions, 6 pass deflections. And ultimately, his season was cut short due to a PED and was suspended for 6 games. So the basically 30-year-old about to be released, and a lot of people have been wondering, you know, do you take a chance on Bouye? Here's the thing. I don't know if we've seen the best of Bouye and he's just gone. I don't know what we've seen the best of him. I mean, when he was with Houston, he did very well his first couple years. You know, he had 59 tackles in 2014, 63 in 2016, and had a sack and an interception. You know, he had a couple interceptions here and there in those years, and he even had 6 interceptions his first year with Jacksonville, right? But in 2018, 2019, and 2020 has only accumulated 3 interceptions, has not played a full season in any of these. He played 13 games in 2018, 14 games in 2019, played 7 games in Denver. So, you know, it's not that I have an issue with, you know, I mean, he had a couple injuries here and there from his year with Denver. So, you know, it wasn't the full 6-game suspension that knocked him out the whole year. He did have some injuries there. But, you know, when you're starting to see a guy just start to trend down a little bit, you know, when he got traded to a new team, I don't know if I really like to see that or not. And, you know, Xavier Rhodes is a little bit of a different story. Xavier, I know people will probably mention that in the comments. Oh, but we brought Xavier Rhodes over. He's an older guy. He was in Minnesota and all of this. Like, why can't you give Bouye a shot? Well, the circumstances were perfect for Rhodes. He was coming back into a zone defense. That's exactly what he wants to be in. That's where he thrives in. And his old DB coach from when he was in Minnesota was the quarterbacks coach for Indianapolis. So he had somebody that he knew. Bouye doesn't know anybody here. And, you know, we've seen him continuously decline. You know, I mean, he's had some decent tackle numbers, but, you know, I mean, not a big turnover guy ever since his first year in Jacksonville. And he's not the prototypical kind of corner that we're looking for. He's more of a man-to-man kind of guy. So, listen, this is another name where by the time the season starts, it's going to be 30 years old. You know, I would like to try to find the true answer to Indianapolis through a draft, or just go all in for somebody that's actually worth potentially coming in. If Denver is willing to get rid of him after 1 year of trading with him, then, you know, it leaves you to believe there's something else that we don't know, that they really don't trust, right? So for me, Bouye is a no-go for me. But let me know what you all think. Let me know if you think that we should give this man a shot. All right. The big one that everybody is talking about, and that is J.J. Watt. So apparently him and the Texans have mutually agreed to part ways, and he will be a free agent at the start of the new year. He even posted a video of, multiple different reasons why he was leaving. I think he does want a new change of scenery. I think he just wants to be, going away to be part of another team where, the atmosphere is much more fresh than anything. Because what's happening in Houston right now is just absolutely terrible. And J.J. Watt just does not want to be a part of that. And it's sad for Texans fans because that guy was, for the last 10 years, that guy's been theirs. I mean, he's been them. I mean, you think of Texans, you think of J.J. Watt, and that's what this guy has been. Now, should we sign this guy? Again, I know the name J.J. Watt, it brings about a big nostalgia point because everyone hears J.J. Watt, they think of, oh my goodness, look at how amazing he's been throughout his career. Well, this last year on a Texans defense that was atrocious, this man had 52 tackles, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, and 1 interception for a touchdown. Okay? I'm not going to say anything, but he had less sacks than Danico Autry. I'm just saying. And this guy is about a year older than Danico Autry. I mean, JJ here in a month and a half, he's going to be 32 years old. He's going to be 32. I mean, this guy isn't going to be around for very much longer, especially when you consider, the injuries that have piled up on him over the last couple years. It's just, is it worth it? I mean, and the sad part is there's somebody that's going to want to give him a shot. And I would love if the Colts wanted to give him a shot. But the issue is that there are other places that he probably thinks are a little more attractive to go to. He could play with his brother in Pittsburgh. He can go to a lot of different places that'll pay him more money. First off, I don't think he's worth paying a big contract to bring over. If we offered him a contract that I think Chris Ballard would offer, I don't think J.J. Watt would take it. I don't know if he'd be obligated to want to come to Indy. I really don't think he'd want to. And I'll be honest, I mean, again, he's about to be 32, and the stats from this last year just don't speak high volumes. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not the great J.J. Watt that we all once knew. That 5 years ago was the best defensive player in the league, and there was no questioning it. That's not him right now. That's not him. So, do I want the Colts to try to go for this man? Absolutely. I absolutely want Ballard to be calling J.J. Watt saying, hey, come join this defensive line. You fit right into this locker room. I know you would. You bring that energy. You bring that confidence and that swagger that we all know J.J. Watt does. Love that about J.J. Watt. And he's still a good player. But the whole idea of this is to try to continue to get younger unless you're going to invest big money into edge guys. And I just don't think J.J. Watt is worth investing a ton of interest into right now. If this was J.J. Watt of 3 years ago, yeah, I would definitely be totally all over that. But just not totally into the idea of signing J.J. Watt to a good-sized contract. All right, last name that we'll talk about here, and that is Tyrel Williams. So we saw here that, Tyrel Williams was brought over in 2019 to the Raiders. He was signed on a 4-year, $44 million deal. And, he didn't play this last year due to a shoulder injury, didn't play really at all. So he's going to end up being, he's going to be released, or he's expected to be released by the Raiders at the start of the new league year in March. So unfortunately, didn't really get to do a ton in Las Vegas before eventually being gone. But what you saw in 2019 with him not being the number one wide receiver, had 42 catches for 651 yards, 15.5 yard average per catch, and 6 touchdowns. So was catching a touchdown on every 7 catches. So, he was definitely a dominant presence. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. He's going to be he's good size. He's actually turns 29 today, believe that or not, when this was recorded. I don't know when exactly this one's going to go up, but on this day that I recorded this, he turned 29. So he turned 29. He's still mainly in his prime. He's still got a couple really good years left in him. And, the stats that he's put up over the span of, 5 seasons with, just being a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver, 197 catches for over 3,000 yards and 23 touchdowns in 5 years. I mean, this guy definitely is a baller. And I don't think you'd have to pay him huge money either. Somebody got him the Raiders just got him for $11 million a year. I think the Colts could do that. I think you could get a guy like Tyrel Williams, and he could be the bona fide number 1 right now. And then, we kind of see how the season goes along. But Tyrell's good size. He's a really good wide receiver. He just knows how to play. And the stats back that up. I would totally be in on the Colts wanting to try to get somebody like Tyrel Williams if, they can get him for not having to pay $15 million a year. This is a guy that you could probably get without having to pay $15 million or more a year, because the Raiders just got him for less than that 2 years ago. So I think Tyrel Williams is another name we definitely need to talk about. Somebody didn't really want to talk about that on Twitter because Cody even mentioned the idea of this, and somebody just started getting triggered over it and started calling Cody names and stuff over absolutely nothing. So that was pretty hilarious. But let me know what you guys think of these free agents being released. Who do you think the Colts should potentially grab out of these 3 guys? My personal opinion is to get Tyrel Williams because I think he's a bigger guy and I think he fits better in the offense for what we want to try to do. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Let me know what you all think. And as always, go Colts.